Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today we have a very exciting video as we get to talk about the new Walt Disney experience at the original Disneyland park here in California. Now this opened for the 70th anniversary just a few weeks ago, but we just got to experience it yesterday here in August, and I have a lot of thoughts. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button as it really helps us out and allows us to keep making videos just like this one. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So as I mentioned before, Walt Disney A Magical Life opened on July 17th, 2025, marking the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. I remember that an experience and show like this, as well as the Walt animatronic, were rumored for a long time, but it was officially announced at D23 last year in 2024, albeit to some mixed reception. A few days before the 70th anniversary and the introduction of Walt Disney A Magical Life, the first footage of the animatronics started to show, as previews had begun, and there were a lot of mixed reviews online and a lot of negative talk. Now, I myself saw some pictures and very short clips of it, but I wanted to block out all the noise and just experience it for myself. So that's why yesterday was my first full experience with Walt Disney A Magical Life, and my thoughts on it are very original and very fresh. So I'm excited to get to talk about it, especially with all that context out of the way. Before diving into the actual experience and show, I want to discuss the facade and the interior waiting area. So because this is a show, there's not necessarily a queue, much like other new attraction openings, but there is a whole museum and dedication to Walt in the entry area. Outside, the only major change is the sign that says Walt Disney A Magical Life instead of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Inside looks fairly similar to what I remember, and honestly, I haven't done the Lincoln attraction in a long time, but I do know that there are a lot of changes inside. I've been at the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco, and I was honestly fascinated with all the detail they have depicting Walt's life and his entire journey through animation, all the way up to the incarnation of Disneyland and his first ideas for Disney World. While I love the Walt Disney Family Museum, it's a very long experience and goes into very, very deep detail about a lot of facts that maybe the casual fan isn't super interested in. On the flip side, this waiting area is fantastic. The waiting area for Walt Disney A Magical Life goes through every single section of Disneyland, with each flag having its own label for Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, etc. It shows concept art, it shows renderings of the first things that they had been working on, pictures of Walt meeting with people. It's honestly amazing because you're in Disneyland itself. When you're at the Walt Disney Family Museum, you're kind of across the state up north, so you only really have that memory of Disneyland in your mind, but when you're actually in Disneyland Park and you get to see the renderings and the first beginning images of Disneyland, it's honestly amazing, because you can walk right outside and see the product of that work. After exploring each wall's offerings and all of the details, we moved into the next room, which is closer to the actual theater entrance. This room was amazing. This was honestly better than anything I'd expected. It has animatronics from the Tiki Room, Small World, Pirates of the Caribbean. Some of them are moving, some of them aren't, but regardless, you get such an up-close and behind-the-scenes look. It reminds me of some of the images and videos I've seen of the Walt Disney Imagineering tours. As someone fascinated with the behind-the-scenes of theme park attractions and just entertainment in general, it's honestly amazing to see just how they move and what goes on behind the animatronics. Even so, they look amazing up close, and it honestly is a testament to the hard work they put in all the way back in the 1950s with some of these opening day attractions. It's absolutely absurd how they still hold up. Right behind that is a video board showing how much time into the next presentation, as well as interviews from various people from Disney history. Everyone from the voice of Mickey Mouse to former Imagineers to current Disney executives. It's kind of amazing to see just how much Disney's impacted them either personally or historically. His reach is so far spread, and honestly, the entire experience leading up to the attraction is just to show how much Walt's impact is still felt today. I think it's such a good tribute to him. It's a way to keep his memory alive in the parks, which I'll talk about later, but this is the most Walt attraction we've had at Disneyland, probably since its opening. And now I'm going to pivot to what everyone's probably waiting for. So at this point, there was honestly a lot of people waiting to see this show, and when the doors opened up, most theaters like Carousel of Progress that I've been in, you kind of sit wherever, but this one we kind of filed in and had to sit based on the line we were in. It was like trying to sit in Star Tours. It was a very full theater. We were there at a very random part of the day. The show had been going for at least 10 hours that day, but it was a very popular choice. The video that plays is a variation of One Man's Dream, but with a lot of additions. I'd say that the video itself is at least 10 minutes long. Details Walt's life starting all the way back from his childhood through Disney animation and then eventually to the Disney parks. It's done very well and uses only found footage, interviews, and very true audio that's nothing altered, and you could tell because the quality varies, so it's honestly great that they decided to go with very genuine audio to tell this story. Bob Iger only narrates sometimes to fill in the gaps, but for the most part, Walt himself is telling you his life story, which is brilliant. The video presentation is far from a history lesson like Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln or other Disney shows. You can see just how Walt's vision came to life even with all those roadblocks and all those people who said no to him over the years, it's a story that I haven't really heard unless I've read it online. So to hear Walt say it himself and to see all these people like advocate for it, it's honestly amazing. I was so wrapped up in the presentation, by the time they showed the Epcot concept art and the screen lifted up, I could not believe what I saw before me. I knew that Walt was in this, obviously, and I'd seen the pictures of it, but all I'd seen were very, very close images of the animatronic's face. So when that screenboard lifts up and you see Walt leaning against that desk, it genuinely looks like a real person. I'm not saying that just to overhype this animatronic, and I don't want people to think that I really thought Walt was standing there, but just the body language and the way that it's lit, for that first split second, you really do think that he's standing right there. And there's a lot of moments throughout this where you think this could be a real person. The expectations were absolutely through the roof. When you make an animatronic of anyone, whether it's Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean or recreating anybody from a real movie, it's super hard to recreate someone that's not a Kylo Ren or a Death Eater in the Ministry of Magic. Anyone, for example, that's wearing a mask is obviously going to be easier. Even the Na'vi, it looks amazing, but it is not a real person, and they're not creating someone that's real. So the fact that Walt is standing there in front of you with the body language, mannerisms, and structure that's so similar to what I've seen, it is the first time I've ever felt like I've been that close to Walt, and I think that's the beauty of this attraction. Like I was saying, everything I've seen of Walt has either been through a picture, a video, or an article, so to actually have him standing there and talking to you it is an out of this world experience, and I genuinely recommend it to anyone, whether you're a fan of the parks or not. You will be inspired in some level when you watch this show. Onto the actual presentation, it's very clear that they used found footage and existing interviews for his voice because it is an audio animatronic. The audio is coming from the animatronic and not blasting through speakers, so at some points it's kind of hard to tell because the quality is not super high. But honestly, everybody in that theater was so dialed in, and it was radio silent in there. Everybody was on the edge of their seats listening to Walt talk in detail and cap off the amazing presentation we'd seen before it. And obviously the show-stopping moment is when he leans forward, takes a step, and then stands up. It's not just a one motion, one note thing. This animatronic literally stands up, begins to talk to you, moves his arms, and looks at you in the audience. It is the most lifelike thing I've ever seen. And I think even though it's Walt and people are going to have issues with it no matter what, I genuinely have a hard time thinking they would have done a better job with this than they did. Disney claims that they spent 7 years working on this animatronic, and I fully believe it. Just the very minuscule details, it's stuff that we haven't really seen before. And when you think about the Abraham Lincoln animatronic and how that's held up so well over the years, it's because Imagineering has touched it up over the years, much like a lot of other animatronics. So I think a lot of the issues people have with Walt, they will be ironed out over time, and this is the first incarnation of that animatronic that we've ever seen. Eventually, Walt tells a little story about how he inspires everybody at Imagineering and that it all started with the mouse. The screen lights up behind, and he looks at it, and he steps back, sits on the desk. It's an amazing ending. I think the Walt segment is about 2 minutes, maybe, but it's honestly so short and sweet. I think if he was up there for longer, it would be a little redundant. If he was up there for shorter, you'd feel like you got skimped out of it. It's honestly the perfect amount of time, especially following the waiting area, the presentation. It's such a highlight that they did it very, very well. And now for my thoughts on the entire attraction, because this thing has been very controversial and it's honestly been a lot better as time's gone on. So for Walt Disney Magical Life, I think Walt's legacy needs to be preserved now. We're not around the 30th or 40th anniversary. There's very few people who actually knew Walt personally or were even around at the time that Walt was. For kids nowadays, their Disneyland is full of Star Wars and Marvel and IPs, which is fantastic. That's what they want to grow up with, but the only things we have to echo Walt are his original ideas of the Haunted Mansion and Small World and all of these things. These things will eventually age out and just be attractions and not Walt's visions. So I think having a Walt attraction in the park is the way to carry on his legacy and his ideas. If you watch our vlog and our initial reaction, we literally leave this show and walk straight to the Fantasyland dark rides and ride Snow White because he talks about Snow White and he shows all these ideas, and those Fantasyland rides and opening attractions in general, they just echo truly the vision that he had. Even Jungle Cruise, which we did later in the day, it's the most connected to the original Disneyland I've ever felt in my life. As for Walt having his own attraction in the park, my main point here is that he's not being used to drive sales or revenue, so they're not using Walt for profit. I think the show is for the existing fans of Walt Disney, as well as those who want to learn history, as we do with Abraham Lincoln. It's honestly the same idea to me, as Walt never got clearance from Abraham Lincoln to use an animatronic to teach future generations, and the same kind of goes for here. There's a lot of people that were okay with it, even though there were a minority that were vocal against it. So honestly, the ethics behind it are fairly sound to me. I heard this take online as well, and I agree wholeheartedly. I think Walt would have a much bigger issue with a partner statue being in the center of the park. I don't think Walt ever wanted to be the center of attention and the center of any of the Disney parks. And now every castle park has Walt as a statue in the middle. It's nowhere near a bad thing to me, but I think that the animatronic is far less of a shame to have Walt be the center of attention if we're really getting down to it. If it really boiled down to one word, I would describe this entire attraction as inspiring. Everything from how they used the Main Street Opera House to the waiting area, as detailed to Walt's history, to the actual attraction and the animatronic. It's just very thoughtful, and if you've seen anything about what I talked about in the Tomorrowland video, then you know that that's exactly what I want, is attractions that are very thoughtful of what came before, while still using Walt's original vision, and this felt like a very classic Disney thing. Especially after the addition of Tiana's Bayou Adventure and a lot of things that people aren't loving when it comes to bringing in IPs and not feeling original, this is exactly what we need more of. Whether it's Walt in the future or just attractions of this nature, this is keeping the Disney magic and the Disney dream going, and I think it's an amazing addition. Now those are my overall thoughts. I try to detail our experience as well as my opinion, but it's kind of hard to detail our experience without overlapping with my opinion. So if I was a little redundant, it's just because I care and I'm very excited about what they've brought to the Disneyland park. If you haven't checked this out yet, please go check it out, and if you have, leave a comment down below about what you felt about it. I think that the controversy was a lot more heavy early on, and that today I haven't seen nearly as much backlash for it, especially our theater was very impressed. Not a single blip out of anyone. Most people were very satisfied with it, and I could tell everybody was on the edge of their seat as well as I. So honestly, a very positive experience. We're going to be posting a lot more content like this, and just a lot of content in general, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you're not, please leave a like if you like this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.